Hello and welcome back with us again for another episode of Cheer New York, My Black Experience. My name is Matthew Brown and this is
Abby Jones-Corbin.
We are part of the athletics department of Cheer New York. And with us today, we have the lovely Quinn Leslie.
Dr. Quinn,
Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. That's what we call her. Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman. Aging ourselves. If you remember that show, from back in the day. So, Quinn, introduce yourself. How long you been on the team? All that great stuff.
Hi guys, my name is Quinn Leslie. I've been on Cheer New York. This is my 5th year on the team, and I am one of the directors on the Cheer New York board.
Amazing. Board of directors. Ooh. And don't think that we're playing like we said she is, because we have to say it. She is an ER doctor. Wonderful doctor.
Our first responder.
Saving lives.
I try.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
No worries.
Okay, so let's get started. So Quinn, how did you get started in cheerleading?
So I actually grew up as a gymnast, and I competed in gymnastics pretty competitively from age 10 to about 17.
Okay.
And then I was, good for my league, but we were in the YMCA league. It wasn't the USAG, which is like the path to the Olympics. So I wasn't quite good enough to be on the college team. But after a semester in college, I realized I really missed being on a team, and I missed the athletic component. And we were actually at the Thanksgiving game up in Boston, and I remember sitting in the stands and watching the cheerleaders more than watching the games, and I was like, I could probably do that. So then I tried out the spring semester of my freshman year, and that's how I got involved. I had never actually cheered before then, but the gymnastics was there, and like kind of the body awareness I knew and was able to kind of adapt. And then after college, I took a nice extended 10-year break, and then joined New York.
In those 10 years, you think?
Yes, 10-year break, med school, training. Unfortunately, not a lot of time for extracurriculars, but then my schedule kind of loosened up a little bit once I was done with my training, and I found Cheer New York in 2016, and it's been a fun ride ever since.
All right.
Amazing.
So even though you started in gymnastics, which is funny because our last, we talked about a little bit of gymnastics in our last episode, but coming up in gymnastics and moving to cheerleading, what was your experience like in that industry, being a young Black woman and coming up in gymnastics and then into the cheerleading world?
Yeah, I feel like growing up in gymnastics, in the community I was in, I was really fortunate. It was a very diverse group of people, and actually growing up, I think maybe we had 3 or 4 sort of head coaches that kind of split responsibilities, and probably consistently through the years, at least 2 of them were Black. Either our head coach was a Black female pretty much the entire time I was there. A couple of different Black males came in and out. And so I think I always had that sort of that mentorship and those role models to look up to. And then the girls on the team were, pretty racially mixed. Our town that I grew up in was relatively all in terms of Black and white. And a lot of the girls that I started gymnastics with came to the program through an after-school program. And a lot of it was a majority of Black kids coming through. So that's how kind of was exposed. And a bunch of us stayed through. And so it was really nice. I never really felt the racial issue so much in the gym in terms of our home practices. Sometimes when we compete against other gyms, we noticed that we were very much the only diverse team, so to speak.
In there.
Little spots, and our parents would be the little spots in the audience. We were young, so we didn't take too much.
To find them real quick.
But so it was nice. I didn't really feel too singled out in that respect. Things changed as I got a little bit older and went into college. I went to a school that maybe like 6% Black. It's not a big school, but maybe.
And what school was that?
That was Yale in Connecticut. Yeah, so maybe.
I'm sorry, I knew that. I just had to throw that.
You're gonna do that.
Really?
So maybe.
Yes. So and but that's a very, which we already kind of figured. That's a low number, 6%.
Yeah. So maybe out of the go ahead. Sorry.
6% in school. So how many would you say you cheered for those next 3 years, correct?
Yeah.
So about how many Black on the team?
Probably 2 at any one time, which was not terrible. It wasn't a large team to begin with. Maybe 2 Black, maybe 1 Hispanic woman, and it kind of rotated. So maybe, maybe 15% of us were POC. So it wasn't terrible, but the team, the small all-girls team, maybe the most people we had on the team at any one time was like 15 people. So it wasn't a big, massive team or anything.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And do you think did the fact of you being a Black woman, how different was that experience in that lane of cheerleading coming from being comfortable in gymnastics?
I guess I always felt a little self-conscious. I didn't feel like I met the mold of what a Yale cheerleader was. I mean, they had some pretty specific restrictions about how to wear your hair, and they wanted it in a very high ponytail. And
we back in that again.
My natural hair was, very short, and it didn't quite fit, and sometimes it kind of stood straight up, and it was, I kind of felt awkward. I felt sometimes that, people looked at the other cheerleaders, and I was kind of sort of on the side. They didn't really quite fit the mold. It was kind of oh, they're the cheerleaders over there, and there's the 1 or 2 other people that they need for their round out a little bit. Yeah, so it was a little bit hard. I think a lot of it was probably a little more self-internalized. I probably made it to be a bigger deal than it was. But it was, I felt like I stood out a little bit, which was not always the best thing.
Right. And the funny part is, and not to say it in that way, but if you felt it, some of it was probably true.
This is true.
Probably was, definitely.
And I know we're talking cheerleading and all that stuff, but because of the road that you've traveled and that 10 years in medical school, I forget how it was. You go medical school and then become an intern. I don't know, but residency, all of that. I don't watch enough Grey's Anatomy to put it together.
I watch The Good Doctor.
Okay,
that's how I
okay. So I know you have a whole lot before you're actually the doctor, and you're there now. So even in that journey, was there, challenges? Because I know everybody wants to be the best. Everybody wants to be at the top because that's how you get, to, the better job, or, you become the head of whatever. But the challenges, do you believe that that you had to put your Blackness on hold? Was it even a part of that? Or you were just challenged in of yourself to make sure that you made it? Or did you feel the weight of
being a Black woman
as you were, climbing this wonderful achievement that you did make?
Yeah, no, I definitely did. I think, even in college, doing the pre-med requirements and going into med school, I think probably a lot of Black people understand that feeling of you have to work twice as hard to be considered half as good. And that definitely carried on. But then at the same time, I feel like there were times in my training where I don't know if I say I put my Blackness on hold, but I felt like I couldn't respond to certain comments in a genuine way. So for example, medical school and medicine is very hierarchical. And when you're a medical student, you're on the bottom. You kind of do what you're told. You don't talk back. You don't do anything because, if you get on the wrong side of the person who's evaluating you, that can really kind of mess you up going forward. And so unfortunately, there's still a lot of negative stereotypes held towards Black patients. One of the things that we had an older professor my second year of med school who still liked to talk about how, Black people don't need as much pain medicine because their skin is thicker, and so it doesn't hurt as much. That's why they made better slaves, because you could look at them and they wouldn't feel it. It's a thing. And again, most people don't believe that, but it's still, unfortunately, sometimes it's
for him to even say it and perpetuate that stereotype.
I'm still stuck on that we got thicker skin. Hold on, wait, what?
Some people think that, Black people have different skin, different nerve endings, and that way we can tolerate pain differently than white people. And so that's a biological difference in our makeup, which may be why we have higher tolerances for pain medicine or need higher doses, or why
Never heard this before, and I guess it's because I'm not a doctor, but this is really, oh my God, and this is really a thing.
It's most people have obviously debunked it now. It's not at all true.
But it was
a theory. It was a theory for a long period of time, and they actually have studies now still with new med students coming in, and some of them still believe that and have grown up hearing that, and
Yeah, because you have to remember, if this older gentleman is saying that to, like you said,
right, passing it on.
Somewhere, there's some parent or family member.
Oh yeah, that's right.
They're
that's
still
true.
passing it on. So yeah, they might not verbally say it in our presence, or we may not hear it in our everyday, but it's somewhere, and they're perpetuating this.
Yeah. And I always hoped and thought, most of my colleagues were kind of, took that with a grain of salt or thought like that guy's kind of crazy. But the fact that he was saying it and I didn't feel like I could, or it was my place to rebut that, because, if I say something, then am I being disobedient when I'm at the bottom of the food chain? Am I like going to put on this portrayal of the angry Black female? So that was always there. And even now at work, I think sometimes it's not so much putting it on hold, but again, not being able to respond the way I want to. Occasionally, I'll have a patient who I'll go in to see maybe after my resident has seen them and told them that, hey, my boss is going to come in and see you as well. And I'll walk in the room and they'll kind of be like, oh, like you're the boss? Like I wasn't expecting, kind of puzzled. And, there's days I want to give the benefit of the doubt and say, maybe it's because I'm a woman or I'm young appearing.
It's because you're young and beautiful. They don't understand.
Because I'm young and beautiful, but, there's also, I don't think they expect from seeing a white male resident and then seeing their boss come as a Black attending. Sometimes it's like they don't really believe it. They're kind of dumbfounded. And sometimes I just want to be like, yes, I'm Black. I'm the doctor. Let's continue. But I can't.
And I'm beautiful. And I'm young.
And let's move on and get to your chart, the reason why you're here.
Right.
Let's forget all of this, and I know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Right. And so it's hard. And then I always wonder, do some patients, do those patients take what I say seriously, or do they kind of just brush it off as soon as they see me? So.
And it's funny to think that if I'm sorry, I'm getting, because there's so many thoughts going through my head. Because even that type of stuff you see in because like I said, I watched The Good Doctor. Mm-hmm. And I really believe you, because not necessarily with the Black thing, but that's something that they portray in TV shows, is when a patient's in a room and then whoever the head doctor walks in and you see that either they're young or they're Black or they're a woman, and the patient's like, but I'm in a hospital,
right?
Which means something's wrong with me. So that's where my focus goes, is to the fact that the head doctor is a Black woman and not actually me worrying about why I'm here and what's going on with my health.
Yeah, it's a stereotype, but it's based in something, right? That's where they get it.
Right, exactly. That's so crazy to me and odd.
But you have to remember, again, I'm going back historically speaking, there were times, if you think about it, where a white person could be dying on a hospital bed, and if Quinn walked in as the doctor, no matter whether that was the only doctor in the hospital or in that town, they would not want her to help them.
Right.
Only because
she was Black.
And for you to say that, I know that was, medical school, but still, even today, like you said, you walk in and you wonder for yourself, are they looking at me like that? And why? And you're ticking all of these boxes. Mm-hmm. Instead of them just accepting the fact that you've done what you've needed to do, you have achieved what you've needed to achieve. You have the knowledge and the wherewithal to help them. Just keeping it there, forgetting all the package that it comes in. But for some reason, we just can't get past this package.
This is, I can't even say as I'll talk, it's just a question that popped in my mind. So what response do you get from most Black people when you walk into a room?
It depends. Yeah, so I notice younger people, younger Black patients, there's nothing. It's kind of just steady. I find older Black women they're very sweet. You finish your interview and at the end they'll grab my hand. They're like, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Like, so nice to see someone like you in your position. I wish I had seen that when I was younger. Older Black men tend to kind of just be appreciative. Flirt. Sometimes they do flirt. Yeah. all the old men flirt. Doesn't matter what race they are. Yeah, but I feel like it's the older Black women, especially, and I feel like it's nice. I feel like those are the women who kind of paved the way in some shape or form for me to be where I am, and I think they kind of see that. And so it's a really nice kind of like pay it forward thing, and hopefully one day I'll be that.
They're proud, and they can't help but being proud. They can't help but being proud.
Because even us being close to the same age as you, we're proud. That's why I said it in the beginning, like we're proud. So I completely get it.
I'm like, Dr. Quinn, and the people think we're making a joke of it. No, doctor, you have to understand, you earned that title.
Mm-hmm.
you know,
as a Black woman,
you earned it. And I know it wasn't easy. You had those days. It's still not easy. As you know, we talked prior to, you know, coming on the air. We're in this COVID time. You are on the front lines. You were there when it started a few months ago. It's starting to come back again, and you already know what may be coming, and having to deal with that, you know, dealing with your own whatever's going on with you. So, you know, I'm back at this. We should be some tired sisters, man. We got to juggle. I mean, it's a lot. You have to juggle your health, your people and their health. Their biases, and you're trying to all make it work and still look as beautiful as she does. And that's what, and I you know, well, Black women,
I appreciate that. I don't look as tired as I feel, but.
Black don't crack. Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't. So, how does your race tie into other parts of your identity?
Oh, that's a good question. So I think, you know, with work, pretty obviously, you know, you walk in the room, the first thing you see is a Black woman. And, you know, I always, again, have the question of, do people see me for a position, or do they see me as a Black woman? You know, I feel like fortunately I have a very strong group of friends, a lot of different races. We've been able to have, you know, good interactions. And I don't feel necessarily like the Black friend in the group. My group has been always very mixed race from the time I was a little kid. And so in some ways it's been actually really nice to have the shared experiences, but then there are times like, you know, this summer with Breonna Taylor's shooting, where I felt like I didn't have a core group of Black female friends who I could really go to and talk to them about what I was feeling. And, you know, my close friends of other races, they sympathized, of course. But I feel like there was some level of disconnect that maybe they couldn't understand, just because it was an experience that, I mean, fortunately for them, you know, they weren't going to have to internalize in the same way. And so I feel like part of my identity as a Black woman is a little stunted, because I feel like I haven't always had the interactions with other people that I would like to.
I think so. But I understand that, because when you're going through something and you look for someone who can share in either your pain, you know, really understand it. I mean, people listen to you and you're like, oh, like you said,
yeah, like you said, they sympathize.
Right. But you need somebody to empathize. You need somebody to internalize so that you can get it off your chest and really feel like, okay, now I've expressed it. It's out there. Like you can exhale. And and to be honest with you, I think that's why that movie, Waiting to Exhale, that's a woman thing. Like we need that, someone where I can just, like I have my friends, but then there's that. And I feel I get what you're saying.
Because I think
like just having someone that you can just like kind of look at and not have to say a word and just kind of be like,
they just understand.
I know, correct. I get it.
Yeah. Because I think that all of us, even with people through the George Floyd, the Breonna Taylor, other people didn't understand why, for a lot of us, even though we didn't necessarily know them, but why even I could look at that situation and it just make me cry as if I did, because they don't get like, oh, well, how can you be so affected by someone that you didn't even know?
Yeah.
Because it ties completely into our identity and who we are as a people.
Exactly. And I think, you know, we've all had those similar experiences. And, you know, one thing I never really talked about it until a couple of years ago, because it seemed a little like, you know, a little taboo, a little woe is me. But like, I definitely had that experience, probably one of the first times I felt like I experienced some like blatant racism from an authority figure, was actually a very similar situation to that you always hear, right? With the police officer. And I remember I was a senior in high school, and I went to the private school in my town, not the public school. So we were on spring break, but public school was still in session. I was driving my mom's car, and I had stopped like right by the library, pulled over in front of a driveway, put my hazards on just to like go drop a letter in the mailbox. And a cop came over, like as I was getting back in the car, and was like, well, why aren't you in school? And I was like, well, you know, I go to MKA, which is the private high school. He's like, well, can I see your school ID? Fortunately, I had it. And he's like, I don't really know how I feel. Like, why don't you step out of the car? he kind of did a cursory look. He didn't open any glove compartments. He kind of just like peeked in the window, walked around, peeked in the window. He's like, get back in. He's like, you need to go home, and like just drove away. And it was like a little bit, obviously, I didn't realize at that point that it was really an abuse of his power, because granted, fine, I stopped in front of the driveway with my hazards on to put a letter in the box, but like, it wasn't anything egregious. You know, and it wasn't obviously a real search of anything because he was by himself. There was no partner with him. He didn't ask to open any compartments. It was kind of just like, let me show you that I can take a look.
I can do this.
Feel a little bit threatened and sort of, you know, question why aren't you in school? Oh, is it possible that a Black woman could be not going to the public school or vice versa?
Driving this car.
In this car, and my mom, it was a sedan. It was a nicer car, but like all these different things. And so that was really hard. And I never really talked about it that much because I think one, I didn't want to kind of fall into that like, oh, this is a token Black experience, even though I knew that it was common. And, you know, my parents had that talk with me when I was young in broader terms of basically like, you know, if you get stopped by someone in authority, like kind of just do whatever you need to do to get back to us. It wasn't necessarily the car situation, but it was, you know, if, you know, even if you feel like they're being unfair or they're saying something that's about you that's not true, like we will deal with it later. Like you just do and say whatever you have to get back to us. And it's like, I almost didn't want them to know that it had happened, even though I'm sure they knew somewhere in their head that it would happen at some point, because otherwise they don't teach you that lesson. They wouldn't do that at an early age. But yeah, so it was that whole like Black identity thing. It's difficult. I feel like you learn it in good ways and in bad ways. And that was pretty altering at that point. So.
Right.
So let's flip the script then.
Okay.
So who has inspired you to be proud of who you are in your racial identity then? So, you know, we've heard your story now of, you know, that was, I'm sorry that happened to you. So who has made you proud to be who you are?
So, I mean, my parents, of course, have been amazing role models. I think the first person outside of my family that I really looked to was actually the dean of students at my high school. Her name was Denise Brown Allen, and she was like this phenom African-American woman, like short afro when everybody had a relaxer and wanted to weave. And, you know, she was this administrator who, you know, was in this room of mostly older white men who never, at least to us, never really seemed to back down or be afraid to say her piece. She was, you know, intelligent, she was warm, she was funny, but she also, you know, kind of kept an eagle eye on the Black kids at the school. And in this private school also, we were a very small minority of the students, made sure we were okay, but then also made sure that we weren't stepping out of line, because she knew that we were going to be scrutinized more than other kids in the school. But I think it was the first time I saw somebody in that like leadership position who just didn't seem to be afraid and didn't seem to be apologetic. And I was like, I kind of want to be her. I was actually really intimidated by her at the same time. But she was awesome. And then fortunately I found a couple other mentors like that throughout my life in medical school. And those women who they're just like phenoms, and yeah, they're great.
Because representation matters.
It does.
No matter
really
every conversation we have, I see that we've all found someone. You have to have that person that you look that representative that you look towards. Even if it's not someone you can tangibly touch, but you know that there's someone out there that you're aspiring to. And I know you are definitely now. You know, now you have to take on that mantle. You've become a representative. Yeah, you know, a role model.
That's so stressful, also.
So when was the first time that you acknowledged that you were Black? That I'm a Black woman, that's, you know, I'm different from everyone else.
Yeah, so I think the first time was probably around second or third grade. And I kind of remember this semi-distinctly, but our town had a very like extensive busing system and bus kids from one end to the other end to kind of keep the schools integrated, and it like dated back to, I don't know, the 70s or something.
Hello. We talked about it.
Thank you. At the end of the school day, we would line up in the gymnasium, and they had cones out, and you would stand behind the cone of your bus. And like I said before, I went to an after-school program at the Y, as did a lot of the other Black kids. And I remember that our bus, for a couple of years, it was Black Squirrel, and then we were Black Rabbit. You had like a color and an animal. And it seems like you see the lines of kids, and you notice like mostly white kids, all the Black kids in one line, white. And I remember like a couple of times, hearing people whisper like, oh, all the Black kids, like, their parents can't pick them up because they're working and they have to go to this program. And I think that was the first time I realized that, oh, something's a little different. I didn't really feel upset or threatened by it because all my friends were in that line with me and we had a great time at the after school program, but there was definitely something about the people who were on that bus going to that program and how we were different than some of the other kids. And, the way that they were, in that sense, cared for after school and what opportunities they had in terms of who could pick them up, who was around. Right. And there's more than race to that. There's some like socioeconomic stuff too, but as a kid, you don't really understand what that is. So you just see the color.
But it's funny that even as children, which goes back to how we have to acknowledge the fact of the things that we say as adults. And even if an adult doesn't say it to a child, even them hearing it, the fact that a child automatically, like you just said that you didn't acknowledge it at that point until that happened, but those little white kids already had some type of knowledge, understanding to say
why they in that line, and we're not,
and that's terrible. That's sad.
That's because they heard it,
and that's exactly they heard.
We always joked like, why did our bus have to be like Black Rabbit or Black Squirrel? Can we not
when you started saying the names of the buses, that's why I was like,
it was a little
everything was black. Why was it Black Squirrel?
We're gonna assume that was a coincidence, but
no, that's too much of a coincidence.
Listen, I got a side eye that one.
That's a little shady. I don't trust it.
Not at all.
Not back then. They were very blatantly in your face, thinking they weren't type days.
Right.
Yeah. Like you weren't gonna pay attention to it. It was Black Squirrel.
What do they call that? The where like racism that's in your face, isn't it a word for it?
Overt? Racism in your face.
But I feel like it's a word for it, like when it's blatantly in your face, like it's racism, but they try to play it like it's not racism, but it actually is racism. I feel like it's the word for it, but
it'll come to us.
It'll come
that's just overt.
Yeah.
It's just racism, that's it.
It's just racism.
Yes.
At its best. It's just like really.
So when is the first time that you would say you experienced joy in your race?
Oh, okay. So I think it may not be the first time, but one of the biggest experiences I can remember is at college graduation, the Afro-American Cultural Center did a Black graduation. So it was offered to all of the students who self-identified as Black, and it was, a day or two before the actual graduation. And they had a ceremony in the chapel on campus. There were some performances. Every student got to get up in front of the microphone and thank whoever they wanted to for a couple minutes. Everyone got a kente cloth with their class year. And it was really the first time you saw like maybe 200, 225 really strong, proud Black graduates standing in front of this, full chapel and everyone applauding them and, us applauding all of the people who were there supporting us and who got us that far. And it was just, it was really, really powerful. And I hadn't seen that kind of strength in numbers. And then to know that, these were all people who had worked and pushed and, not given up and had faced all this adversity. And, we were coming out the other side of this, really tough journey, but a journey that was going to let us have all these other opportunities was really great.
That is beautiful.
I'm sitting here like, wow.
Yeah, it was great. I don't know if other colleges do it, but
and see, we didn't. And I went to a PWI, to a predominantly white school, and we didn't have that. There wasn't anything separate for the Black students. No, not at all. That's beautiful. That is amazing.
It was great. We all wore were told to wear Black, and it was just a representative.
That's powerful.
That's powerful.
Movement.
That is.
Yeah.
And even more powerful because you were at Yale.
Yeah.
So that's even more. Oh.
It's hard to get into.
Yes.
You got there, you did your thing, and like you said, to express your joy in that way and just say, like, we did this.
200 and something of us. Yeah, we all did this.
We did this.
That's beautiful.
We did this. Well, just because of that moment, I'm just going to add this in here. While you were there at Yale, was there like the African American Africana organization? Did they have things along the way to help, keep the cohesion, or have someone there to help each other get through this as a Black community?
They did. I mean, we had this like, we called it the House. It was like the African American Cultural Center, which was sort of this hub for different activities that kind of tried to help incorporate all the Black students together. So, I was on a step team in college that came out of the House. There was some dance.
Shut your mouth, Quinn.
Choir, gospel choir.
Quinn was on the step team.
Yes, I was.
Love it.
So there were a lot of groups that came out of it. I think it was a really good experience. I think, part of college too is trying to figure out who you are. And I think there was still, even within the Black community, there were still some divisions. It definitely wasn't anything that was, life altering, but, there were still some divisions of students who were African versus ones who were Afro-Caribbean versus truly African-American, and just different cultural experiences. So, the House was a nice, like,
microcosm of all of it coming together.
That's right, microcosm of all of it together. So that was really nice.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. And it's funny that you asked that, because I think that this is another point that we're noticing, like how you said before, about having that person or people to help you along the way. Because even within your story, in college it was the House, but in school it was Miss what was her name?
Brown Allen.
Miss Brown Allen. We always have to have that person, or even us as a people, realize that we have to continue to guide and help and have some type of support system for us as a people. Because when you say that, that makes me think back to school, and sometimes you would have that Black teacher or Black administrator that was a little more hard on the Black kids, and you at that time didn't understand or realize why.
You said it was the dean of students. My dean of students in high school as well was Miss Wanda Nix.
Okay.
She was also the department chair of the physical education department, but she was also the dean of students, of all students. But we knew that she was really the dean. She made sure, and now going back as an alumni, and when we go back and we have our reunions, and it's always, hey, Miss Nix. And I even I was in Miss Black USA pageant, and one of the things they wanted to do is like this. I did this soliloquy, or whatever you want to call it, and in it, I said I would not have gotten to some of the points I got to if I had not have had this woman make sure I was doing what I was supposed to do. And I actually at one point wanted to be a physical education teacher, because I was like, I want to be like her.
And we have our parents and our families who accept that guidance. That I remember my mother, like there wasn't always, everybody couldn't always say something to me, but I knew the people that outside of my home, within the community, within the school, that my mother gave permission to make sure he stays around, make sure he does what he's supposed to do.
It takes a village. It still does, and that still rings true. It takes a village. And if you don't, and even going back to your point about during with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, needing that village at that moment.
Yes.
And that's what people didn't understand. That was a village moment for us. Like anytime one of our people, something, if they're killed for no reason or stopped for no reason, we feel that, because it's a part of our, part of us. It's a part of our village, because it could happen to any one of us. It could be us. And
woo. So how do you, Dr. Quinn, medicine woman, with all of these things through life, being a physician, COVID, cheerleading, how do you showcase your pride in present day?
So I think, I've always had a lot of extracurriculars, a lot of things I could say, like you said, I'm a doctor, I'm a cheerleader, I'm this and that. But for a long time, probably not until the last couple of years, I was really not super comfortable with myself. I honestly didn't really feel comfortable in my own skin, and I couldn't really kind of define why. And I think over the last couple of years, I've just started to step back and say, like, it's okay that, like, some days I feel, really proud to be Black. And then some days, I feel really, really sad that this is the experience that my friends and my community is experiencing. And, some days I'm, happy to be a doctor, and some days I'm not. And it's okay to not have one defined personality or one defined mood, and just kind of be. I think I've gone from being like very, very type A and very strict to just kind of letting things flow and knowing that you can't control everything. So I think for me, being proud is just really finding this new acceptance of myself and knowing that I'm going to keep changing and keep evolving, and that's okay and that's normal, and just to go with it and not to fight it, because that's life, and that's what makes it beautiful.
And it is, and that is beautiful.
And everybody can't say that. Everybody hasn't evolved to that point yet.
Correct.
And to say, I'm just proud of who I am. I'm accepting me in this moment, in this day. This is who I am. Accept me, because
and knowing that there are different levels, layers, textures, everything of me. Very, very different. We talked about that in our last episode with May. She kind of the same thing. She articulated the same thing, in understanding that there are different facets that come along with being myself, and I'm going to accept that, and everybody else is going to have to accept it too. But do you think that is, like with you said that you went from being kind of type A, which definitely helped you being type A, to become a doctor, because that's what you need for that strenuous course load, everything. You need to be a type A person, or you probably wouldn't make it. And now relinquishing that control of trying to be in control of everything. Do you think that was just a you thing, or do you think that was a thing of society kind of putting that on you?
Oh, I think it was a combination. I think, I had to learn within myself to be able to let go, but I think if I had tried to keep controlling things in the way that they are, if you think about COVID, if you think about like the racial state of everything in the country, even in the last, 6 months, I would have exploded, because there's no way to control all of that. And you can, some days, like you said, some days you feel angry, some days you're happy, some days you're disappointed, and you have to kind of go with it, because if you fight it, like, I feel like I wouldn't have been able to get out of bed, honestly. Just so many emotions going on. So I think it's a combination of the two things. I think they interplay off each other, and realizing that I can't control everything, so I need to let go of some of the things that are not so important, so that way I can focus on the things that I want to. Kind of all melts together.
And I think for me, once again, just my personal opinion, I think, and it's beautiful that you reached that point, because I also think that sometimes it's hard to reach that point, not because you can't, but because, like I was stating, society won't let you, because a lot of times we're not expected to be happy, sad, angry, mad. We're not allowed to have all these different emotions. We're not supposed to, because then, like you said, us being emotional then automatically turns into being angry.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, it's a process. There's some days I'm feeling it, I'm zen, and then there's some days where I'm like completely the other way. So, I'm working on it. It's, like I said, it's a process. It's never going to stop evolving. It's always going to be something, but I'm trying to get there.
And that's beautiful. That's a wonderful thing.
That's a wonderful thing. So, one word, Quinn. We're going to put that Yale. One word to express your Black girl magic. One word.
Okay, one word. I am going to go with unbreakable.
Oh, love it. Getting good.
You know what we're going to do? We're going to get a t-shirt,
and we're going to
put all the words on the t-shirt.
Unbreakable.
Unbreakable.
That's deep.
Very.
I love that.
Very.
Unbreakable.
Why unbreakable?
I just think, throughout life, there are a million things that are going to throw you back down. And, I think all of us in our own ways are able to rise up from them. I know I've dealt with, between school and work and health stuff and so many different things, kind of been thrown down to the bottom, and have kind of clawed my way back up, and been stronger for it. It's, again, not been easy at all. But there's something I feel like in my spirit that won't let me give up, even when I feel like I'm at that depth of despair. And, it's something that was ingrained with me from a long time, from my parents, from all those mentors, and seeing all these people who have made it. Like, if they can do it, I can do it. And have friends and family and great people along the way to help me. So there's no reason that I can't. It's hard, but I'm not going to break.
It's bending, but not breaking.
Correct.
Bending, yes. But not like we man.
What? Oh my goodness.
Bending, but not breaking.
It's not. That. And you are a strong, beautiful woman. Yes. You are Quinn. You are an inspiration to us all. You are.
No, absolutely. Really are.
You are. Yeah. You are. Because being friends and knowing things about you, we've been through some of it, seen some of it with you, knowing your personal stuff, even just being a doctor in these times in the pandemic. Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot for anyone.
We appreciate you.
Yes.
We're proud of you.
Very.
Will always be. I know it's like weird when people are like, why are they saying these things? But no, it's true. Very, very honestly, very true. From our heart, we just to listen and talk to you right now is even, learning more
about you,
and more about you, and just understanding the depth and seeing the unbreakable Quinn.
Yes.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, unbreakable Quinn.
Unbreakable Quinn. I love it. And even
love it.
I thank you so much for this opportunity. It was really great. And even just hearing you guys say you're proud of me, that gives me a lot of strength, to be able to wake up tomorrow morning and go to work and know that.
Speaking of which, we're going to throw out the our prayers and well wishes and love to you, because we know at this time, things are going in the wrong direction here in New York City. In comparison to other cities, we're still doing well, but not for where we've come from and in New York City. And so we know that we just want to put those well wishes out to you and those, and your coworkers, but especially to you, to stay safe. If there's anything that you need from any of us during this time, please let us know. If you need that moment to woosah and just kiki across the FaceTime or whatever, we're here just to talk, and get you through it, because we know that that's a hard thing. That's another burden that you have to bear, and we appreciate that you choose to continue to do so. In these times,
And wait, but before we close, I have to say, Quinn, speaking of New York City, you've given us probably one of the best backgrounds. You can feel the New York.
Yeah, this is my Zoom background. It's very.
I was cute with a plant.
The plant's right there. You gotta have a plant.
But wait, I bet yours is real.
It is.
It is.
And I'm not that great.
Quinn, thank you so much for joining us. Yes. Thank you for being here with us. We love you. Thank you to all our viewers for watching. We hope that you come back and see us again on our next episode of Cheer New York, My Black Experience. Love you all.
Love you. Bye.